Why are groceries so expensive?
I literally just watched and witnessed a lady just get done for shoplifting at Coles.
I live in Sydney and I just went down to Woolies, so I bought a dozen of eggs and I got this. So guess how much it is?
Australia right now is actually fucked. Look at this. $40, bro.
Grocery bills are about to become even more expensive, with price freezes at our major supermarkets coming to an end this month.
Can't have the fucking grocery prices gone up again?
It's cheaper to buy lamb, beef, chicken, whatever it is, from a butcher instead of Coles or Woolworths.
Let's talk about the most stressful place in Australia right now. Not the middle of the outback with no water and a flat tyre. Not a Sydney parking lot on a Friday afternoon. Not even a Centrelink queue on a Monday morning. It's the most stressful place in Australia in 2026 is your local Woolworths or Coles, because you can walk in there with a perfectly reasonable list, grab what looks like barely anything, get to the checkout, tap your card, and watch a number appear on that screen that makes you question every life decision that brought you to this moment. And the worst part is you did not even buy anything exciting. No treats, no luxury items, no fancy cheese or imported biscuits. Just the basics. Just the things a human being needs to exist in this country. And it still costs a small fortune. This is not the Australia that was sold to us. The lucky country. The place where if you worked hard and kept your head down, things would eventually work out. Or things are not working out. In 2026, ordinary Australians are standing under the fluorescent lights of their local supermarket doing the kind of mental arithmetic that should only be required of accountants and contestants on hard quiz. Checking unit prices, putting things back, switching to the home brand of the home brand, buying less meat, buying less fruit, skipping things that used to be staples because staples are now a luxury category apparently. And while all of that is happening in the aisles, the two companies that control what most of this country eats are posting profit results that would make your jaw drop. Woolworths and Coles are not struggling. They are thriving. Their shareholders are happy. Their executives are comfortable. The Australian family doing the weekly shop is trying to figure out how a trolley that used to cost $90 now hits $140 before they have even made it to the meat section. So today we are getting into all of it. The real numbers, the duopoly that has Australia in a chokehold, the government inquiries that went nowhere, and why in 2026 feeding your family in the lucky country has become one of the most financially punishing things you can do on a weekly basis.
Pressure on Australia's food and grocery suppliers could see higher prices on supermarket shelves in the next fortnight as the war with Iran continues. Increased prices for fuel, fertiliser and other imports are putting pressure on the agricultural sector. The boss of grocery chain Richie's IGA said if the disruption to commodities continues, prices will rise in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Why are groceries so expensive? I literally live an hour out of town. Every time we go in, it costs me over $800 in groceries. There is 7 in my family, so that's 5 kids and 2 adults, but everything is getting so expensive. So drop down your best hacks for saving money on your groceries.
Remember that time that the major supermarkets called out for price gouging during a cost of living crisis? Oh, and how the ACCC did like a full-blown inquiry to really dive into the super dodgy pricing practices that they were trying to get away with? Well, it is very likely that those same supermarkets are going to have a good old crack at the old price gouging gambit again. Why? Well, because we have a fuel shortage right now, which also means that food supply and price are going to be affected, which means that grocery prices are going to increase and probably sting more than they already do. But here's the good news. Union members are calling on the government to bring forward a ban on price gouging by supermarkets and implement higher penalties for those supermarkets who do try to profiteer off working people through price gouging tactics. Everyone is already struggling with housing costs and living pressures and fuel prices. We don't need supermarkets fattening their profits even more at the expense of working people. So what do you think? Do you agree with the ban? And how do you think supermarkets should be held to account?
Can't have the fucking grocery prices gone up again?
No fucking way, bro. It's the size of my hand. Yeah, boys, we're cooked. We're cooked. Oh, holy fuck, look at this shit. $11, $12. I thought that was it. $12, $11, $12. Hey, let's go to the end of the aisle. $17 fucking dollars. $18, $14. If you live in Australia, do not come to this aisle.
Please don't mind my hair. I don't know what's going on. As you guys know, we are doing a no-spend grocery challenge at the moment where we try to eat through our fridge, freezer and pantry without buying many groceries. It has been 14 days since our last shop, so I'm going to do a little 2-week update for everyone. So like I said, this is at the end of 2 weeks. This is all the stuff we have left in our fridge. Yeah, still quite a bit. We are running sort of low on fruit and veggies, so we might buy some of that this week. I'm also very slowly getting through the freezer meals, but there are still heaps left, so that's good. And down here, we still have plenty of bread. This is what our pantry is looking like. Still heaps of food in there, plenty of granola and stuff like that, so that's good. And our chest freezer, ooh, not heaps going on in there anymore, but still enough to get us by for another week, I think. Overall, we still have plenty of food left. I will do a long form of this video on YouTube to properly update everyone on what we have left. And I will be picking up a click and collect for a top-up shop tomorrow, and I'll do a video about that. But yeah, 2 weeks in, so far so good, easy peasy. I forgot we also have 4 oranges left.
Let us get into the specifics, because the specifics deserve to be said out loud where everyone can hear them. Food prices in Australia have risen sharply and persistently since 2020, and the idea that things have meaningfully improved is simply not matching what people are experiencing at the register. The Australian Bureau of Statistics has tracked food inflation running well above wage growth for the majority of the last 4 years. Prices went up, wages shuffled forward slightly. The gap between them is where Australian households are currently living, and it is not a comfortable place to be. Let us talk about specific items because this is where it gets real. Chicken, which used to be the affordable protein you defaulted to when beef got too expensive, is no longer the budget option it once was. Beef is pushed further out of reach for families watching every dollar. A bag of potatoes has become something you think about before you buy. Fresh fruit and vegetables have become genuinely aspirational in parts of this country, a head of broccoli hitting $4 or $5. It's lettuce during supply disruptions, reaching prices that made international headlines, and became a running joke that was funny for about 48 hours before people remembered they actually needed to buy lettuce. Dairy across the board climbed. Butter, cheese, milk, all up. Eggs went through a period of price increases driven by avian influenza outbreaks affecting Australian poultry flocks that pushed prices to levels most people found genuinely shocking. Bread, the most basic staple imaginable, more expensive. Cooking oil quietly doubled. And the snack aisle, which is a sacred institution in this country, got absolutely hammered by shrinkflation so aggressive that the packet now contains mostly air, a little bit of product, and the audacity to charge more than it did 3 years ago for the privilege. And through all of it, Woolworths and Coles, which together control roughly 65% of the Australian grocery market, kept reporting healthy profits. Not struggling profits. Not we are doing our best in difficult times profits. Healthy, robust, shareholder-pleasing profits. During the same years that Australians were eating less, buying less, and stressing more, here is where the story gets darker and also more infuriating. Australia's grocery market is one of the most concentrated in the developed world. 2 companies, Woolworths and Coles, control the overwhelming majority of what gets bought and sold in supermarkets across this country. That is not a functioning competitive market. That is a duopoly. And a duopoly means that when both companies decide prices need to go up, there is essentially nowhere for most Australian consumers to go. Aldi provides some relief. Your local IGA does what it can in the communities it serves. If the big 2 set the tone and everyone else is playing a supporting role in their game, now here is where it gets even messier. It is not just consumers getting squeezed. Australian farmers and food producers have spent years complaining about the pressure the major supermarkets put on their wholesale prices, forcing suppliers to accept lower and lower margins, while the retail price the consumer pays keeps climbing. So the farmer gets less, the shopper pays more, and the gap in between, that growing widening gap, goes to the supermarket. That is not a supply chain problem. That is a business model. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC, has been investigating supermarket pricing practices, and the results have not been flattering for the major chains. There have been findings around misleading pricing, discount claims that were not quite what they appeared to be, and pricing behaviours that raised serious questions about whether Australians were getting a fair deal. The federal government launched its own inquiry. There were hearings, there were submissions, there were strongly worded findings, and then there was a distinct lack of anything that actually changed the price of chicken at the checkout in any meaningful way, because here is the reality of how this works in Australia in 2026. The supermarket duopoly is not just powerful in the grocery aisle, it is one of the most politically connected and economically significant forces in the country. Woolworths and Coles are among the largest private employers in Australia. They have resources, lobbyists, legal teams, and influence that dwarf anything a consumer advocacy group or a Senate committee can put up against them. And so the inquiries happen, the reports get published, the headlines run for a few days, and then the prices stay exactly where they are, because nothing structural has actually been done to change the conditions that produce them. Meanwhile, Australian households are spending a larger share of their income on food than at any point in recent memory. Its regional and rural communities are paying even more due to transport costs and limited competition. And the people at the very bottom, those on welfare payments, low fixed incomes and casual work, are the ones making the most brutal choices about what they can and cannot afford to put on the table this week.
I literally just watched and witnessed a lady just get done for shoplifting at Coles. I knew it was happening. I was at the self-serve checkout and all of a sudden workers whispering to each other, and then this sort of secret shopper looking guy came over and was whispering to them, and they were looking at the lady behind me, and I turned around and I could see that she was scanning items and blah blah blah. So I knew what was happening. And then I actually feel like I'm gonna get really emotional. And then obviously I've walked out, and then she's walked out, and she's basically been greeted by 2 police officers. And I just think it's really sad, because someone stealing a bag of groceries, although it's not okay and it's wrong and it's against the law, she's not a hardened criminal. This woman was mid to late 40s. People don't steal groceries if it's not for desperation. And I don't know. I just think it's really fucking sad. And then having to watch her be walked through a shopping centre by police, it's really heartbreaking. That's someone's mum, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's friend. And a fucking bag of cheese costs $10, guys. You wonder why that's happening.
What has the government been doing for these past 4 years? We have inflation at a record high, 4.6% and accelerating. And how is high inflation helping Australians with the cost of living? We have Australians now paying $2,200 a year more on average in groceries in an average Australian household, because the price of groceries has gone up about 15% since this government came to office. We've got Australian households paying $1,800 more a year on average in power bills since this government came to office. We've now had under this government 15 interest rate rises. That's a cumulative increase of 4 percentage points. If you're an average mortgage holder, you're now paying $30,000 extra a year in interest, $2,500 a month. Income tax receipts since this government came to office have grown by $83 billion. Government debt today is almost $1 trillion. That's costing the average Australian $1,000 a year in interest repayments. $1,000 a year. Now, we have heard from those opposite, and I'm sure we'll hear it a lot tonight, that the war in the Middle East is causing this problem in Australia. Well, in Australia, the Reserve Bank has increased interest rates for the 3 past consecutive months. Every other central bank has kept interest rates on hold for the past 3 consecutive months. Why is that? Why are other economies able to absorb the shock of the Middle East oil price rise, but Australia is not? It's because, as the Reserve Bank Governor said just last week, inflation in Australia was already out of control. The government did not use good economic times to repair our balance sheet or to take pressure off monetary policy, and as a result, Australians are once again going to pay the price.
It's cheaper to buy lamb, beef, chicken, whatever it is, from a butcher instead of Coles or Woolworths. This is not the case. This is the biggest lie. The other day I did a video. It cost me $107 to feed 7 people a little bit of lamb. Everybody wants lamb. I got a lot of commentary saying I should be supporting a local butcher. First of all, I didn't know there was a local butcher. Second of all, the same amount of protein would have cost me $153 instead of $107. I'm all for supporting local butchers. Why? Because they are local businesses, typically run by families, as opposed to Coles or Woolworths that are operating to run a profit for shareholders. Profits, yes, they're pretty thin, which is why their shares generally don't do very well. Coles or Woolies, profit margins on average are low single digits. The juicy devil in the detail bit is that you need to know is that Coles or Woolies are making massive profits on 3 areas: snacks, soft drinks, water. Their profit margins in those areas range from 40 to 70%. Bottom line is support a local butcher because you're supporting a family. Don't support Coles or Woolies.
Us Australians are getting ripped off on a daily basis. I live in Sydney and look at it. I live in Sydney and I just went down to Woolies, so I bought a dozen of eggs and I got this. So guess how much it is? So the milk was $6.90 and then the egg was what, $8.95. Let's call it $7 milk and $9 egg. But if you go online to a Chinese supermarket, it's $4 delivered for the same egg, and it's $5 delivered for the same milk. I'm not even joking. It's the same thing and the same thing. I don't think it makes sense, and it's hurting everyday Australians. Follow me for more.
Grocery bills are about to become even more expensive, with price freezes at our major supermarkets coming to an end this month. In June, Woolworths capped the price of more than 200 household staples, and at Coles, a campaign locked in the price of more than 1,000 items, lifting some pressure off Aussie households. But as those offers come to an end, hundreds of household items could become more expensive.
There are Indigenous Australians that can't afford to eat. We are spending $27 million to subsidise things like nappies and milk and bread because Indigenous communities and First Nations people who are native to this country, who cannot call themselves anything except Australian because they are from this country, they cannot afford to eat. We are spending $27 million on that problem, but we are spending double that amount on providing mental health services to one of the richest suburbs in this country, a suburb which already has mental health services, probably more than most other places, because if you go to Bondi, most of the people there look like they probably have a therapist. No offense to anyone who's from Bondi. I come from Sydney, so I know. Bondi doesn't need any more help. That community does not need any more help. Why? Not because of what they've been through, because they already have money. We know that. Everyone in Australia knows that. They have money. If you have the money, spend it. For people who don't have the money to eat, who don't have the money to buy nappies for their babies, the money that comes out of the federal budget should be going to those people and those communities.
You know, just once, I'd like to get back in my car after being in Coles or Woolworths and not feel like I've been taken for a complete ride. I spent $23 to get 5 items, 2 boxes of biscuits, some Woolworths brand cocoa powder. I thought I was in Coles for a second there. 375 grams. It's not even half a kilo. And that was $8.30 or $8.50. Some breadcrumbs and cheese and bacon rolls. Would you consider $6 for a packet of cheese and bacon rolls to be the sale price? They were on sale for $6, marked down for $6.50.
Australia right now is actually fucked. Look at this. $40, bro. You can buy a piece for cheaper than that. Bro, $9 for fucking milk. 12 eggs for $15. Yeah, mint. That's what I earned in the first year of my apprenticeship. This is the fucked one. Look at this. Oil. $65, cunt. Are you kidding? Bro, for me to try eat healthy and do a weekly grocery shop, it'll cost me like $200 just for myself. How the fuck are families of 4 survive?
So here is where we land in 2026. The trolley is fuller of stress than it is of groceries. The receipt is longer than it should be for what actually went into the bags. Woolworths just opened a new store. Coles just renovated another one. Both look fantastic. Very shiny, very convenient. And the prices inside are still completely out of control for millions of ordinary Australians who are just trying to get through the week without their grocery bill becoming the thing that breaks the budget. And that is exactly what they are counting on. They are counting on you being too exhausted after a long week to think too carefully about why the mints cost that much now. You're too busy with work and kids and rent and everything else life is throwing at you in 2026 to sit down and connect the dots between record supermarket profits and your shrinking ability to fill the fridge, too ground down to talk about it, too tired to share it, because a tired and distracted population is an incredibly convenient thing for the companies benefiting from this situation. But you are here. You watched this whole thing, which means some part of you is not ready to shrug and accept this as just the way things are now. So do not shrug. Share this video with every Australian you know who has stood at a Woolworths or Coles checkout and felt that very specific, very Australian flavour of quiet fury when the total comes up and the trolley tells a completely different story. Not to help the channel, because the more Australians who actually understand what is going on, the harder it becomes for the people responsible to keep hiding behind global factors and quarterly reports and government reviews that go absolutely nowhere. Scoos, so you are here for the next one. Because there is a lot more to get into. And this country deserves people who are paying attention.